every morning, long before the first school bell rang, and before the sleepy neighborhood began to stir, Mr. Solomon arrived at Birchwood Elementary with a slow but purposeful gait. His faded brown overalls bore the weight of 20 years of janitorial service, and the keys at his waist jangled like an old tune echoing down the hallways. Mr. Solomon was a quiet man. The students knew him only as Solly, the old janitor with kind eyes and a bent back, who mumbled greetings and always smiled with the corners of his mouth more than his lips. The teachers nodded politely. Some of the younger ones whispered stories about how he'd once saved the school from a flood, or maybe a fire. The tales changed with each retelling. But no one really knew Mr. Solomon. No one had ever, except Samira. She was 8 in Miss Delgado's 3rd grade class. A curious child with wild curls and eyes too sharp for her age, Samira watched the world closely, and she had noticed something strange. Each morning, like clockwork, a perfect white circle would appear in the center of the school courtyard. It was drawn in chalk, always the same size, always in the exact same place. No one mentioned it. No teacher erased it. No student stepped inside it. It simply appeared, and by the end of the day, it would fade into dust and be gone. But Samira saw him. Once, weeks ago, when her mother dropped her off unusually early, she had seen Mr. Solomon standing in the courtyard, crouching slowly, painfully, drawing the circle with a short stub of white chalk in his weathered hand. He wasn't rushed. It was almost ritualistic, gentle, reverent. From that moment on, she came earlier each day. Hiding behind the brick column near the school entrance, she watched as the old man arrived before sunrise, swept fallen leaves from the yard, and finally knelt to draw the circle. He never looked around, never paused, never missed a morning. Why a circle? Why always the same spot? Why only him? It nodded. One crisp November morning, Samira finally spoke. She waited by the courtyard after school, clutching her backpack straps tightly. As usual, the chalk circle was already fading, its outline scattered by the wind and running footsteps of children now gone home. When Mr. Solomon emerged from the east wing, dragging a mop bucket behind him, she stepped in front of him. "Why do you draw the circle?" she asked. The bucket wheels squeaked to a halt. Mr. Solomon blinked, his brows furrowed as if searching his mind for the right answer, or perhaps whether to give one at all. "I don't reckon most notice that," he said, voice rough like gravel and pine wood. "I've noticed," Samira replied. "I've seen you do it every day. Is it for something or someone?" He looked down at her, at the small girl with the searching eyes, and smiled with those same corner-curved lips. "Do you believe in remembering?" he asked. "Yes," she said, though not fully understanding. Mr. Solomon nodded, satisfied. "Then maybe it's time someone else knew." They sat on a bench near the now empty playground. Mr. Solomon leaned his mop against the metal railing and gazed out at the dying circle. His voice, when it came, was soft and slow, like water tracing stone. 40 years ago," he began, "I wasn't a janitor. I was a soldier," Samira blinked, "like in a war." "Yes, ma'am, overseas, long time ago. When I came back, I wasn't quite right. I saw things no man should see. Did things too, my head. It got noisy." He tapped the side of his temple with a knuckle. "I ended up living on the streets for a while. No job, no family left, just me and my memories. Until one day I stumbled into this school, seeking shelter from the cold. The principal then, Miss Hargrove, didn't kick me out. No, she gave me a warm drink and asked if I could fix a broken window." "She gave you a job?" Samira asked, wide-eyed. "She gave me purpose," he said. "She said every place needs caretaking, even the forgotten corners. I started fixing more things, cleaning, mending. Pretty soon I was part of the staff." He sighed. "Years later she passed away. Cancer, I believe. Right before she died, she asked me to promise one thing: to always remember the spot where she used to take morning walks. Said that was where she first decided this school was worth everything." He pointed to the center of the courtyard. "Right there, that's where she stood." Samira looked at the fading chalk. Her mouth opened a little, but no words came. "So I draw the circle," he continued, Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because legacy isn't about buildings or medals. It's about remembering who cared, who made a place matter. From that day on, Samira came early, not just to watch, but to help. She brought her own chalk, neon green, purple, even glittery blue. Mr. Solomon would chuckle but stick to white. Tradition, he'd say. But he let her draw a smaller circle nearby each time, and they called it the echo ring. As weeks turned into months, their quiet ritual became a bond. She learned how to mop without streaks, how to fix a squeaky hinge, how to change light bulbs and unclog. He told her stories, not all sad, some hilarious, about students who glued their desks shut, about raccoons in the cafeteria, about how care isn't just cleaning, it's watching over. Everyone sees teachers and principals, he once said, but a school breathes because of those who sweep its lungs. Then spring came. With it change. Mr. Solomon began moving slower. He missed a few days. His hands trembled when gripping the chalk. One morning he didn't. Samira stood in the courtyard alone, staring at the bare concrete. She waited 15 minutes, then 30. No circle appeared. That afternoon, the principal called for an assembly. Mr. Solomon had fallen ill. He was in the hospital. Recovery uncertain. The room fell silent. Most students shuffled out afterward, unconcerned. A few teachers teared up, but Samira didn't move. That night she cried into her pillow, the kind of cry that comes from a crack too deep to fix with hugs. The next morning she brought her chalk. She drew the circle, white, perfect, in the exact center. She knelt the way he did, slow, respectful, and when she stood back she drew her echo ring beside it. Words spread, quietly at first, then louder. Other students joined. A boy from 5th grade drew a triangle near the circle. For geometry class, a girl from 6th brought flowers and placed them inside. The next week, nearly 24 shapes surrounded the courtyard center. Circles, stars, hearts. The concrete had become a canvas of care. When Mr. Solomon returned, thin, walking with a cane, he stopped dead at the gate, eyes welling as he stared at the explosion of chalk color. The students had gathered, teachers too, even the principal. No speeches were given, no awards handed. Instead, Samira walked forward and handed him a new piece of chalk. White, she said simply. He took it with trembling fingers and nodded, and together they drew the circle once more. Years passed. Samira grew up, went to high school, then college, but she never forgot. Neither did the school. The chalk circle became a tradition. Every year, new students heard the story. They drew their own rings. They learned about care, about quiet legacies. When Mr. Solomon passed, a small plaque was placed near the courtyard. For Solomon James, who taught us that care is a circle that never breaks. And every morning before the bell rang, someone would kneel and draw, just as he had. Legacy is not always loud. Sometimes it's a chalk circle drawn in silence, remembered in color.